All right, welcome back, friends. Today we're going to be talking about how to be most effective using Adobe Illustrator, using your artboards, your guides, and also your grids, which I don't have in the title, but we're going to talk about grids today as well. When you open up Adobe Photos or Adobe Illustrator, excuse me, in your properties panel, some of the things you're first going to see are your rulers and your grids options over here. You're going to see your edit artboard option and your guides. The worksheet that I've given you is really a set of instructions to help you navigate how to more effectively use your artboards and your guides. But I'm going to give you a little walking tour before we get started in the multiple exercises. The Artboard tool lives over here, and this allows us to manipulate, change, adjust our artboards as we need to. When you turn this tool on, you'll notice, and I'm going to turn it on here again, you'll notice that everything kind of grays out, and then we get this kind of blue box around that lets me know that I can change layers or my artboard panels. I can now add artboards as well. I'm going to zoom back out so you can see. And they're numbered based on the number of artboards, and you can title them custom here. So I could call this Artboard Art 2 if I wanted. I can name it anything that I want to name it. And I also have some presets here available to me. So right now, this is a custom artboard based off of the original directions artboard that I had created. But I could do a letter size, I could do a phone size, depending on what it is I want to do. But what's great about this is it allows you to create a series of artboards up to 100 that really allow you to create a file that is very user-friendly for your purposes and your needs. When we're working with artboards, one of the things that we have the ability to do is also add guides and grids to our artboards in order to help you maybe organize things better, line things up more effectively. My rulers are pretty much always turned on because I like them to be on, but it's over here in the properties panel. Click to show rulers. The keyboard shortcut for that is also Command R, and it lives under the view menu underneath rulers, hide or show rulers, depending on which option you've already got going on. The view menu also has a lot about hiding your artboards where you can actually hide those completely if you don't want to see them, or you can hide your edges. You can add, turn your smart guides on and off. This is also the menu where you have some snap options. When you're drawing, you can turn on snap to grid so that if you have a grid turned on, which I'm going to show my grid real quick. This is a grid. This can be a little overwhelming when you're a newer user, so I'm also going to show you how you can change it. But if I we'll draw a rectangle real quick, and I have snap to the grid turned on, when I move this using my move tool, it kind of automatically, and you can kind of see it bopping through, it moves onto the grid. So that can be very helpful depending on whether you've got your grid set up the way you need to. So I'm actually going to turn all that off. I'm going to hide my grid again. This exercise is, this activity, excuse me, is intended to help give you a really strong understanding of how to manipulate our artboards, add guides, and things like that. So for exercise 1, we're gonna create some new artboards. So this is under the assumption that you are using the Artboard tool, which is Shift-O on your keyboard. And we're gonna hit the plus sign in our properties panel, and I'm gonna add an artboard. I'm gonna name this Artboard Exercise 1. And then I'm going to change the preset to a iPhone 876. This is much older. I'm going to move this a little further over. I don't want them to overlap, right? I don't want it to overlap. So that's one of the things it says. But I'm also going to turn this to portrait mode, which it already is. I'm going to make sure it's set on portrait mode, and I'm going to turn my crosshairs on. And that is underneath my options. So Artboard options, I can say show center mark, show crosshair, show video save area, for example. And I'm going to turn all those on so you can see what that looks like. That's my center point. These are my safe areas, like if I'm doing videos and I want to make sure that nothing goes outside for an iPhone, for example. These are great to have on because it's going to keep it out of your time zone and all of that. And then your crosshairs are these lines right here. And I'm going to turn just those on. So I'm going to turn the rest of this off so that I can see the center marks on the left right, top, and bottom. So that can be very convenient when you're drawing, and these will not be printed. All right. We're also going to add some guides to the artboard we just made. So first, I'm going to make sure that my rulers are on. My rulers are already on, which is great. And then I'm just going to right click on my ruler and I'm going to make sure it's set to inches. It may have be defaulted for you to pixels, but we're just going to flip this over to inches. I'm going to draw a rectangle next, and this is going to demonstrate how you can take any shape you want. It doesn't matter whether it's a rounded rectangle or a star or some funky object that you draw. And we're going to drag this shape so that it's, if you look at the directions, it's going to ask you to get it to 1/2 inch from the artboard. One of the ways I like to do that is I like to pull myself down a guide. So if you look here, this is 0, right? Here's 0, there's 1/2 inch. So I'm going to drag myself, or there's an inch. I'm going to drag myself a little guide here going either way just to help me. And if you zoom in, the numbers get smaller. So there's 1, and I got to get it right on 1/2 inch. And you can see that it's showing me in my smart options that pop up whether I've got it to 1/2 inch or not. Okay. And now I'm going to make sure that my rectangle here, and I like where it kind of snaps to the guides. That's always a great thing for me. And I'm just going to adjust those all the way around. Now, you can pull guides for each one. That is completely up to you. I find that to be quite helpful, but for this exercise, I'm just going to go ahead and get going a little further. And this is the guide that I want to create. I want to make this into a guide. This guide here, you can just click on those, by the way, and delete them to get rid of them. They are like objects, so they can be deleted. But we're going to go to the View menu. I'm going to come down to Guides, and I'm going to say Make Guides. And now that box that I drew is now a guide. And I'm going to show you that you can do this with any shape that you want. So this can be very effective depending on what it is that you're trying to do. And now that circle is even a guide, and these can be moved around, and whatever I put underneath will always display under the guide, which is very, very convenient. I'm gonna get rid of that one. So once you've got this done, this is gonna let you make guides any which way that you want to. The last exercise in here is going to be making artboards and making artboards in fun ways. I'm going to go ahead and make a new file. We're going to do Command N for new, or you can say File New. And we're going to make this, for me, last name, first name, period number, and then we're going to call this Artboards. When you go to turn this exercise in, you are going to be turning in 2 separate files. So scales, Emily, first, Artboards. I like to go ahead and name things when I start, so I don't have to worry about what they're going to be called later, and I don't have to worry about it being everything's Untitled 1, Untitled 2, Untitled 3. This is a good habit to get into, okay? I'm going to change this from points to pixels, and I'm going to set this as 300 pixels by 300 pixels. When you start a new file like this, you can choose to change a lot of your settings. So I'm going to add 9 artboards. And one of the things I like to do, this is a really neat one, is I'm going to come down here to more settings. And in here, I can now customize the way my artboards display. I can arrange them by row, by column, or this way, I'm going to do grid by row, and I'm going to change my spacing to 0, and I'm going to make sure my columns are set to 3. What this is going to do, and I'm going to hit the create document, it's going to create 9 separate artboards that are all touching. What I like to do with this is now if I create something that goes across all of these artboards, if I export them out individually, it's like a puzzle. And now I have this really neat layout that I can work on, and this box becomes its own separate thing. Now, let's say I've changed my mind, right? And I've decided this doesn't work for me. Using the edit artboard, I can go to rearrange all, and I can change it right here anytime I want. So if I wanted to add a 10 spacing and I wanted to make it by column, now you'll notice that the space between my artboards has increased, and now it's a long row. But for our purposes, this is the way it should look when you're all said and done so that you can turn it in. Do me a favor, just throw something on this so that when you go to turn this in, you can see, and you won't just see a blank file, you'll actually get to see something on the artboards. Um, One of the other things I'm gonna ask you to do is to turn on your grid and adjust those grids on this. So we're gonna say View, Show Grid, and then we're gonna go to the Illustrator menu. If you're on a Mac, it's under Edit if you're on a Windows machine, but we're gonna go to Preferences, and we're gonna go to Guides and Grids. This is a good one to know, ladies and gentlemen, because you're definitely probably gonna see this on the certification exam. And I'm gonna change that to 20, and you're gonna see it's very, very small now. But you can change this to anything you really want to, which is kind of nice. You can also change the grid color. For example, the blue kind of like it bothers my eyes sometimes, so I sometimes prefer like a gray color. You can also choose between lines and dots, which I really like. So I'm gonna do like a 300 pixel dot grid just to show you what that looks like. And you can see them right there. They're kind of blending in a little bit today. I should have maybe made them a little darker. Let me change that so that you can see. I think I made it too crazy. We'll do this teal color. You guys can see that probably a little bit better, and we'll do every 150 pixels. And now if I zoom in, you can see they're real subtle. They're really little dots. But I like that better sometimes because for me, the grid can be a little overwhelming, and the dots to me are a little more easy to work with. So when you're all done, make sure that you've got your two files, make sure you've got your grids turned on, make sure you've got all the guides the way they're supposed to be, but hopefully this will really help you understand and be able to more effectively use your artboards, guides, and grids. Thanks, ladies and gentlemen.